Tansei, my name is Shane Belcourt. I am Tony's son. I think you met Tony downstairs, my dad, and it's a real pleasure and honor to be here at this event with everybody in the community and seeing some faces from the movie yesterday who made it yesterday and others that are here from years past that my dad and others have been organizing these events and these gatherings in Almont, and it's a really awesome thing to see. And all these orange shirts are so beautiful and heartwarming, just that we're all forming this knowledge and community together. And it's great to be up here in the Textile Museum. We're now in the Learning Center for those of you back home. We're downstairs in the main gallery, and upstairs we're here for different workshops throughout the day. And I'll be your host for those, your Phil Donahue. Of that process. So bear with me as I run around the room. Today's session is going to be really fantastic, and one way to kick it off with Alyssa Delbaere-Sawchuck. I've known Alyssa and her brothers and her mom and her dad for decades now, coming from Toronto, and it's been a real joy to see your career blossom and deepen. And not only your playing, but also your gift to the community and the Métis community writ large. It's just been really awesome to see you on so many international stages, as well as on community gatherings like this. And Alyssa and her family have a deep history of not only their Métis ancestry and roots, coming from the Red River community, but also in terms of their classical music. That's how I first knew Alyssa and her brothers. Just these killer musicians playing classical music as like these little kids, and it was just like, oh, are you kidding me? These guys are so good, and they're like 5 years old. But then to move that classical understanding and the master's degree that you have in classical music,
doctorate,
excuse me, I missed that chapter mark, my error. But then moving the doctorate into just this amazing performance that it is really this, like, to know that Alyssa and her family can transition between sort of classical European music styles and then move right into our own Métis fiddle with such seamless grace and beauty is a real honor to know that there's all that knowledge behind it, and also that you studied with so many of our own Métis musicians and fiddler players throughout the decades to form her own base of music. Later tonight, you're going to hear also, she plays with Amanda Rayome. She tours and plays in all kinds of different ensembles as well. And today's session will be a great treat because Alyssa, who has her own mic, so I won't have to hold this, will lead us through a presentation for the next 35, 45 minutes on Métis history, Métis music, Métis culture, Métis everything. And I'm honored to be here. Miigwech, and thank you. And please welcome Alyssa to our room.
Thank you. Wow, Miigwech for that beautiful introduction. So, Tanshe Alyssa Nishnaka Shan, that means hello, my name is Alyssa, and as was mentioned, I'm originally from Treaty 1. I have Red River Métis ancestry that I can trace back to Louis Riel's ancestors, and my Métis family names are No and Recette, coming from the communities of Saint-Boniface and Saint-Pierre-Joly. I moved to Tekaronto when I was young, when I was about 10, and so I didn't have the opportunity to grow up in a traditional Métis community. However, I'm a proud citizen of the Métis Nation of Ontario and been really supported and seen by this community as far as I can remember, especially in my adult life, and so it's just an honor to be here with you as community here today. There was an elder who was very much instrumental in my teachings, both spiritually and musically, and that was Lawrence Teddy Boy Houle, who's pictured up in the back there. And Teddy Boy gave me a very special nickname, Nenukase, which is in Anishinaabe for hummingbird. And so for me, that represents that ability to navigate between different time-space realities, code switching between classical and fiddle and other world musics. And also just being seen by Teddy Boy as somebody who was really wanting to learn the musics of the past and bring them into the present as that hummingbird flies both forwards and backwards. And so I'm going to start off with a tune that for me really represents that hummingbird energy. It's a tune called Lord MacDonald. It's a tune that came from Scotland and traveled to Teddy Boy's community of Ebb and Flow in Manitoba. And we traveled back to Scotland together playing this music. So just like the hummingbird has flown forwards and backwards, so has Lord MacDonald. So here we go, Lord MacDonald. So there's somebody else who's really near and dear to me, and that person is my mère. And mère is in Michif, which is the language of the Métis for grandmother. And my mère grew up during a time where it wasn't safe to walk these lands as a Métis person and as an Indigenous person. And so I do this work in mère's honor, and also in honor of all those Indigenous folks who perhaps didn't grow up with the privilege of having that safety, and also acknowledging the privileges that I carry as a white passing Indigenous person, to always use that in a good way. And for me, that's taking the opportunities that I've been afforded and opening doors for others, and really supporting them as well as my own community. And so back to ma mère. She grew up in a big family of 12, so there's the family photo down there. And actually these are screenshots from a project that Shane and I did together back in the day. She left home at 16 to dedicate herself to work as a hairdresser, and she also had two younger sisters, and so the next set of tunes that I'm going to be sharing with you represent that unity of those sisters within that family, and for me they also represent those three beautiful plants, that's corn, beans, and squash, that also equally support one another. And so this theme of support is really resonating in this slide and in this moment, in the spirit of this piece, the three sisters. And these are tunes that I learned from a recording from a fiddler named Grandy Fagnon back in the 1980s. An incredible fiddle ally, Ann Letterman, went into these remote communities, particularly in Manitoba, with the help of Teddy Boy, and recorded many of these older fiddlers who were, some of them barely could still hear and play, and before they their music passed with their passing, and so it's really because of Teddy Boy and Anne that we're able to still hear this music, and part of what I am here to also do is to play it live instead of also just hearing recordings, because that's where music really lives. It's in these spaces, it's in these lived experiences together. So here are the three sisters. So us as Métis people, our flag is that infinity symbol, and for me, that's not only a symbol of us still being here, it's also a representation of equality, of how do we relate to ourselves, all of the different parts and aspects of ourselves, and how do we relate to everything that surrounds us in this space of equality. For me, there's this other word that really represents that ability to step into the space of relationship, of equality and understanding, and that's the word of Oti-Pemsawak. And this is a Plains Cree word that means the people who are in command of oneself, the free people. And in order to step into a place of self-command and freedom, for me at least, it's about that acquiring that self-knowledge. When we're stepping into that space of self-knowledge, there's more liberation, because it allows us to have the ability to be at choice. And for me, having expanding that ability to be at choice always in situations, and having that power to be at choice, is that place of self-command, of freedom and liberation that I think many of us are seeking. At least I speak on behalf of myself as a seeker of liberation and love. And so that infinity symbol is really cultivating that relationship within ourselves, and how do we relate to one another in this space, and see one another actually as human beings, and knowing that we all really come from the same place, and how can we return back to that space of equality? These are all questions rather than always having the answer. And what else can I say? And we also have, so us as Métis people, we have our own distinct culture that is a mix of those two nations coming together as coming together as the original peoples of these land, along with the arrival of the fur traders. And so our music is a blend of those two things. Our language is a blend of those two things. Our food, everything, our clothing, it's that really of that honoring of that relationship that was formed over several centuries of contact, that really created this new culture of, and sometimes we like to use the word ethnogenesis, ethno meaning a group of people, and genesis meaning birth. So there's that birth of us as a nation through that process of several centuries of contact between the two groups. So it's not just like, people are automatically Métis just because they have children amongst each other. It's really, there's that distinctiveness of that relationship that happened over many years. And so I'm going to speak a little bit more about the music next, and how myself and my brothers really came to be as musicians. So I was gifted a violin when I was 3, and little did my parents know that I would become the musician that I am. But it was always kind of that space where I felt most comfortable and most accepted and most at ease was in these musical spaces. It wasn't at school. It was when I was playing music and playing music with others. And being the eldest of 4, I kind of paved the way for the other 3 to also work together, and we formed the Métis Fiddler Quartet. I think that Danton, the youngest, he's about 10 years younger than me, plays the cello, which is not a common instrument, I would say, in Métis culture. However, we were bridging the two genres of the classical quartet and Métis music together in that formation. Sometimes I will also play viola. In this photo, actually, I'm playing viola rather than fiddle. And I think Danton was performing on stage for M&O events as basically as soon as he could kind of like make a sound on the cello. So he kind of grew up on stage together, and it was through that mentorship between Anne and Teddy Boy, and also we spent some time with John Arcand and James Chichu along the years that really helped us create our own voices as artists. And so nowadays we're often in different places, so we don't often get to play together. However, recently we were brought back together to work with the Sultans of String on their Walking Through the Fire project, which is bringing together Indigenous and non-Indigenous musicians to create something new together. And it was a very special moment and occasion for us to play. And even though it's not kind of, it's going to be kind of out of sync in terms of kind of material, I think I'm going to present to you some a cappella versions of what we did with the Sultans. So I'm going to sing for you a song that was attributed to the late Louis Riel. And in this song, Riel is awaiting his execution from jail. And for those of you who maybe have little background history, Riel was somebody who was a visionary for Métis and Indigenous rights in this country, and really stood up at a moment in time where it was really called for, and with so much grace, and really, you know, without fail, just standing up for what he believed in, and giving up his life for that as well. And you know, he wasn't well liked by the Orangemen of these lands, and you know, he was not going to give up his fight for what he believed in. And so for me, he's an inspiration, not only in the way that he carried his life, however, also he left us with a beautiful quote that says, "My people will sleep for 100 years, and it's the artists that will carry their voice forward." So I really feel supported by the ancestors in the work that my brothers and I and all of us are doing as Métis artists. And so back to this song. So Riel is awaiting his execution, and he wants to write a letter to his mother. However, he doesn't have anything to write to her with, so he draws his own blood with a penknife and expresses this beautiful love for his mother and for me, that also represents that relationship that we all have with whether it's our birth mother or our earth mother, that eternal love that she's always there with us. So here is Chanson de Riel, and then I'm going to follow that up with a fiddle tune that my brothers and I wrote called Tuckeronto Reel, which is a song, a fiddle tune that's inspired with the joys of reconnecting with nature and connecting with that part of us that is childlike and that childlike spirit that really lights us up and wants to create and wants to be in the magic of this human experience. C'est au champ de bataille, je fais grimer douleur, sans être un doute qui passe, ça fait grimer douleur. Oh, j'ai soif une lettre de ma chère maman. Je n'avais ni plume ni encre pour pouvoir les écrire. Oh, j'ai pris mon canif et je trempis dans mon sang pour pour écrire un beau lettre à ma chère maman. Quand elle soivera cette lettre, tous ces écritures en sang, ses yeux remplis de larmes, son cœur s'en va mourant. Elle jette à genoux par terre, on appelle ses enfants. Priez pour votre Père qui est au régiment. Mourir s'il faut, mourir chacun meurt à son tour. J'aime mieux mourir en brave, faut tous mourir un jour. So I often get asked, so what makes Métis music Métis? And for me, the answer varies, of course. And I think that it's very much can be a question of identity, as Teddy Boy his music is considered Métis fiddling. However, nowadays he would be identified as an Anishinaabe elder if he was still alive. However, he also had Scottish roots, and so there isn't, for me at least, in my research and my knowledge, there isn't necessarily a distinction between kind of characterizing indigenous fiddle music from Métis fiddle music. However, what's really cool is that it has this Celtic lineage, And there's also the influence of these lands, and there's the influence of these players kind of figuring it out on these lands and having their own way of playing that really follows the spirit of the melody or the heart. It's said that if two Métis fiddlers or Indigenous fiddlers were to play side by side, they would be able to start together, but they would never finish together. Because in the spirit of the tradition, oftentimes we're kind of asked to improvise, or it's just the way that we play. When I am kind of coming up with a new tune, I find it actually very easy to go down that route of if there's a section that feels really inspiring, to play that a few times and never play it the same way twice, and never play it the same length twice either. I think that there's also a really cool aspect to this as well, because later on, after the guitar was introduced and other instruments were introduced to accompanying the genre, there started to be this game that happened between the guitar player and the fiddle player. Like, can the fiddle player throw off the guitarist, and can they still manage to follow the fiddle player in the changes? And I think that's such a cool thing that can happen in the genre. I don't know of any other genre where you might try to throw your guitar player off in front of a group of people. So it kind of, for me, like, actually reminds me a little bit of Inuit throat singing, where you have that game of it just being play, that's and play is something that I really thrive in, and playfulness, and never forgetting that part of me that still wants to live as a 3-year-old running around. Teddy Boy really brought that back to life, connecting with him, and a little bit more on Teddy Boy. He was born in this community of ebb and flow, however, attended residential school, and in his experience of that hardship, he left and for many years was numbing his pain of having been taken away, and suffered in those times, and numbing himself with all kinds of substances. And by the time that I had met him, he'd done a lot of healing work and joined AA and was a speaker and was sober, and so it was really inspiring to me for somebody to really overcome that challenge, and it really speaks to that resilience that we can find in resisting things that disconnect us rather than connect us all. Because I think at the end of the day, our heart really wants us to stay connected and be connected, and so for me, I'm always thriving to be that one person who's the sober person at the party, and being like, this is an act of rebellion and an act of resistance to be the only person not imbibing, and so Teddy Boy, one of the first songs that he ever taught me was a tune that he called Medicine Fiddle, and I remember that day very well. I think I was about 16 years old. He picked me up from my grandmother's hairdressing shop, brought me over to his house. We had a little lesson in the kitchen. He shared this tune with me, and at the end he offered me this tiny little golden violin that I still have in my altar space, my space of dedicating to the past, present, future, that hummingbird spirit that's always there. So I'm going to share with you this medicine fiddle, because as human beings we may not have all had the same experience, but it's part of the journey to that we can't have the light without the dark, and so here's medicine fiddle. Oh, and maybe before I play medicine fiddle, I'm going to give you a very brief spoon lessons, because I did bring spoons with me, so I figured we would hand them out. So as we're handing them out, for those of you who would like to join me, maybe we can all wave and say Tanchi. That means hello in Michif. We're going to place that hand on our thigh, and then the opposite hand is going to come above that one. And we're going to start by going down, 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 down. Now we're going to go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Now we're going to put those two together. It's going to down, down, up, 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 down, down, up. Awesome. Great. So hold the spoons in the air until we all have them, and I'm going to tune my fiddle up for this last tune together. If I could get silence in the room, please, just because I need to tune my fiddle and it So as this is the last song, I don't know where we're going to get cut off here because I have other places to be and I'll be flying off very quickly after this. Thank you so much to the museum, to Shane and Tony Belcourt for putting on this event, and to all the volunteers, Lynn and for helping me put this together, and I know there's a few others to thank. And I always want to end in a little celebration. So here's our little kitchen party moment together. I ask that you just let me set up the rhythm of the tune first, and then join in when you feel like you have the tempo. Now, I recommend that we just start with the downbeat first before adding any other fancier spoon rhythms. However, maybe you already know how to play the spoon, so that won't be a challenge. So let me just set up the tune, the tempo first before we get started here.
Please give it up to Alyssa Delbaere-Sawchuck. That was amazing.
Thank you
so much for that. What a joy. What an honor to hear.